Remember how, at the end of the last video, I said that's everything you need to get your product made and to take it from an idea to a reality? Well, that's not quite everything because now you have a product that's ready to go, but actually no inventory to start selling. Oh dear. This is where the next stage comes in, finding funding for your idea, and it's really a rather important stage. The good news? Once again, the internet has come to our rescue and made all this as easy as it can possibly be. And in this case in particular, we're going to be using crowdfunding to make our money. Crowdfunding simply means that we're asking the community to fund our products, and the most famous example of this is Kickstarter. The best part is that you don't have to give away any percentage of your business or your profits. Backers on crowdsourcing sites get involved because they want to place pre orders and because they want to see your ideas come to fruition. This is famously how projects like the Oculus Rift came into being. Finding an investor means giving away a share of your business. Getting a loan means taking a serious risk. But crowdfunding? There is zero risk and no downside. And this is why more and more makers are now finally able to see their ideas come to fruition when previously it would never have been possible. There are other crowdsourcing options out there, though, and other funding options too. The most obvious place most people will start is Kickstarter, which is the best known crowdfunding site on the web and possibly largely responsible for the strategy's current popularity. Now, while Kickstarter might be the most famous and provide you with access to the biggest number of potential backers, this can also be a bad thing in that it means you'll be facing more competition and you'll need to follow stricter guidelines. However, Indiegogo, which you'll find here at indiegogo.com, um, is a slightly more lightweight alternative where it can be easier for beginners to get noticed. Then there's some other options. The first one is crowdfunder.co.uk. And while Kickstarter rules the roost in the US, until recently it was less accessible for those based in the UK and Europe. And this site here, crowdfunder.co.uk, is aimed to take advantage of this by focusing on the UK market and has now found a niche as a great place for charities to raise money and for British entrepreneurs to find backing. Then there's Small Knot, and Small Knot is a relatively young crowdfunding organization that looks at businesses rather than projects and encourages users to invest in small local organizations. And they're based in Brooklyn, New York, and you can read more about them on their Facebook page. And then there's Rocket Hub. Now, Rocket Hub functions very similarly to Kickstarter, but has become particularly popular among musicians and philanthropists. And you can read more about it here at rockethub.com. Note that crowdfunding sites do have their drawbacks and limitations. For instance, crowdfunding only works if you can raise the money you've set yourself as a target. At least that's the case with Kickstarter. Indiegogo does not have this rule. These platforms are also becoming increasingly saturated, which means you're going to need to have a very good and unique idea and then do a lot of promotion on top of this to make it a reality. There are likewise many more funding options for raising capital. One option is simply to find investors, and there are many websites that can help you do this. For example, AngelList, which you can read about here at angel.co, is a website that works similarly in some ways to a crowdfunding site, except that the investors do get some money and some share of your business. However, they can back you with small amounts of cash, which means that you're not just approaching massively wealthy individuals and companies. Creating a profile on AngelList is a great way to learn about investors and to let them start getting to know you, even if you don't end up looking for money on the site. Other sites like Crowdcube, which you can find here at crowdcube.com, and Angel's Den, which is angelsden.com, can also do similar things. Note that it's also possible to get funding at other stages of your manufacturing. For example, you can get funding from business angels and accelerators at the pre seed stage of your business, the point where you're still prototyping. Look at companies like tandemcap.com and hax.co for more information. Seed capital is the money you get to turn your idea into a reality at the industrialization phase. At this point, you can get money from crowdfunding or from investors, after which you enter the growth phase. Growth phase funding is what happens in the first few years of your business and is referred to as Series A, Series B, and Series C funding. Series A tends to raise anything from $1 to $10 million and is riskier for investors as you don't have much data backing your potential for success. Then you have Series B, which is mainly about scaling, and you can bring in much more money at this stage. Finally, Series C is for the fully mature business, at which point an acquisition might even be on the cards, which is ideal if you're looking for an exit strategy. After this comes the IPO, or your initial public offering. At this point, you can consider your business a roaring success, and you don't need me helping you anymore. Otherwise, you can find other ways to fund smaller projects. One option is bootstrapping, which means earning capital from a side business and funneling this into your own hardware manufacturing. Alternative, you can get a bank loan. Even PayPal offer business loans now, or you can even use a credit card loan. Just make absolutely sure that you've tested the market for your product and you know you're going to make money back before you take out loans. Then there's always the bank of mum and dad or friends and family. If you have a good idea, they might want to be part of it. There are many attractive reasons to work online. There's the freedom, there's the potential for big earnings, and there's the sense of satisfaction that comes from choosing what kind of business you want to run. But for some of us, the biggest draw of making money online is that sense of accomplishment. We love being able to tell people we're entrepreneurs, and we get a thrill out of earning a living off the back of our own ingenuity alone. But perhaps you're getting to the point where that isn't quite enough. Because sometimes selling digital products and running blogs can start to feel a little empty. While you might be creating value, at the end of the day, you're still just selling ideas and text, and nobody actually gets anything physical to hold at the end of the day. When you tell someone you're an entrepreneur, what springs to mind? Most likely, they'll imagine that you're an eccentric inventor, someone who comes up with gadgets, gizmos, ideas, and more, and then uses those to make people's lives better and to make a bit of money on the side. We think about people like Arthur Fry, the inventor of Post-it notes. When you say, "No, I run a website," you can almost hear them deflate with disappointment. Oh, that kind of entrepreneur. Make no mistake, making money online is a fantastic way to earn cash while enjoying the lifestyle you want, and it's incredibly skilled, talented, and impressive if you can do it. But at the end of the day, it's not quite as exciting as creating a genuine physical product. Imagine being able to hold something in your hands that you dreamt up. Imagine being able to use it as part of your routine. And imagine visiting a big box store and seeing your product there on the shelf. Imagine your product taking off and becoming incredibly popular. Imagine walking down the street and seeing lots of people using your item. With a physical product, you can quite genuinely change the world and make a much bigger impact than you can with an ebook. But it's not just about the noble cause of getting to feel that sense of accomplishment. Making a physical product also makes a lot of sense in terms of money. That's because physical products are still where it's at when it comes to revenue, and that's not likely to change anytime soon. For starters, physical products have a much wider appeal and can sell to a significantly bigger audience. Even through e commerce, physical products sell significantly more than digital products. Why? Well, partly it's just because people like to hold something in their hands when they've spent money. Have you ever bought a digital product online and then felt immediately empty, as though you haven't really gotten anything worthwhile for your money? Now imagine trying to sell an ebook to people on the street. How many people would be likely to go for it, or even be interested? A lot of people would never buy an ebook, and certainly not one on making money online. In fact, the vast majority of people would never consider that. They're not getting anything tangible or that they couldn't find for free online. They don't like reading ebooks on their computers and they're not interested in working online. Compare that with a physical product, though, and now you have something with obvious value to a large audience. If it's the right price, then there's a chance anyone who passes on the street will be interested. Imagine just showing your grandparents what you make for a living. Show them a book you wrote on your computer and you'll get an unenthusiastic, "That's nice, dear," if you're lucky. Show them that you've made your own toy, gadget, or item of clothing, though, and you'll have genuine interest. That's the difference with a physical product. And then you have the ability to scale. The most scaling you can do with a digital product is to get it on JVZoo or another affiliate marketing platform. That way, you can get countless other marketers helping you promote your product in exchange for a commission. That's good, but it's not quite as good as having millions of units selling through countless high street stores around the world. So, with all this in mind, why is it that most people don't create their own physical products? Why is it that most people will settle for ebooks or just placing ads on a website? The answer is simple. They think creating a physical product is beyond them. The assumption here is that companies like Apple, Microsoft, Hasbro, IKEA, Nike, and so on, well, they make physical products because they're huge multinational corporations. They have manufacturing plants, patents, shipping deals, huge amounts of marketing and more, and they pour billions into market resources, focus groups, R&D, etc., etc. So, how can one person do all that? How can you possibly compete? Well, that's where things are changing, and that's where all this gets very exciting. Because right now, it's actually incredibly easy to create and sell your own product. If you're willing to make something simple, then there are options that will allow you to start selling physical products from your website today. But I'm not just talking about those simple ideas. I'm also talking about ambitious ones. Want to make your own smartwatch? Well, you can do it. Want to make some kind of device for opening jam jars and sell it from major stores? Again, you have that option. It takes a little bit of work, and that's why I recommend creating an online business first and using that to bootstrap yourself, although we'll see later how you can avoid the need for doing that too. Ultimately, though, the web is the great equalizer and has closed the gap in many ways when it comes to creating hardware. It's now more possible than ever to not only do all this, but to do it from the comfort of your home without ever stepping foot outside. You can outsource your manufacturing, you can outsource your shipping and storage, and you can do all your marketing and selling through the web. Today, just one person can have the same kind of impact with a physical product that a large company can, and it's only going to move more and more in this direction in future. And actually, that's an incredible thing. There is a genuine hardware revolution occurring right now. Are you going to get involved? And there you have it. That's literally everything you could possibly need to create a physical product and start making real profits from it. This might sound very complicated, but let's take a moment to reflect. You can come up with an idea yourself and then outsource the design of that idea, giving you your ready made CAD file to send to manufacturers. You can then use a site like Alibaba to find manufacturers using a prototype you printed very cheaply at Shapeways. You can then raise capital with no risk through Kickstarter, and you can start selling through an e-commerce store. So actually, it really isn't that hard at all. In fact, you barely have to lift a finger. That's the power of the web, and it's gradually going to cause a seismic shift in the way that business is done. Why not be at the forefront of that change and create something amazing? And I wish you every success. This video series is going to tackle everything you need to know about coming up with an idea, taking it all the way to market, and then manufacturing and selling it. But before we get into the technical and ambitious stuff, let's start out by looking at the easy stuff. If you want to create a physical product to sell from an existing website, just to gain some additional profits and perhaps strengthen your brand, it always looks very professional when you have your own physical product, then there are ways that you can do this right now without having to learn a ton of new skills or invest any cash. Let's take a look at some ways you can dip one toe tentatively into the world of physical products. One of the easiest ways to start selling products is to sell physical books. If you're already selling a digital product, such as an ebook, then it's only a small transition to start selling a hard copy of that book. And actually, this is incredibly easy to do. If you already have the file, then all you need to do is take that file and upload it to either Lulu, which is lulu.com, or CreateSpace, which is createspace.com, and this is Amazon's publishing services. And this is called print on demand, otherwise known as POD. And it essentially means that you're printing out your physical books every time someone orders one. Normally, if you were going to self-publish a book, then you would have to order thousands of copies of the book and keep them in a warehouse. This would involve a large upfront investment, and you'd then have to sell all of those copies at a profit to make any money. And this would mean going to retailers, and generally it's a lot of work that's led people to crashing and burning over the years. Alternatively, you could try and find a publisher, which would mean going via an agent. And this would usually lead to years of rejections before you got a deal. Even Harry Potter was rejected by several publishers before it found one. With POD, though, you simply upload the files to a machine that's capable of printing out the books. When someone orders your book, or you do, the printer simply makes a new copy ready to sell. There's no upfront investment and no risk of losing a profit. And the only overheads are the printing costs, which are very small, and whatever you paid for designing the cover, etc. There are plenty of sites on the web that allow you to create items with your brand printing on them. These include sites like Vistaprint, which you can find here at vistaprint.com, and there's also other versions of it like vistaprint.co.uk if you're in the UK, and like Spreadshirt, which you'll find here at spreadshirt.com. And using these sites, you can start selling printed t-shirts or printed mugs, caps, mouse mats, and more. All of them will look highly professional without any work on your part. Like POD, these print each time items are ordered, which means you'll never end up with a ton of stock on your hands. You can't create anything particularly inventive, but if you just want to get a physical product on your website, it's another easy way to do it. What's more is that this route is ideal for strengthening your brand. By giving or selling items with your logo printed on them, you increase the sense of loyalty your customers have as they feel proud to brandish your brand. What's more, every time someone uses your custom mug or cap in public, more people will see your logo. And some people actually manage to make quite a lot of money by selling t-shirts with funny slogans on them, etc. And guess what? There is one more way that you can quickly start selling. It's pretty retro, but it works. That method? Well, simply start making things by hand and selling them online. If you watch The Big Bang Theory, then you might remember the Penny Blossom episode where Penny creates lots of small paper flowers and sells them online. She ends up creating a human assembly line and minimizing her overheads, and the result is that she's able to generate a good profit for a day's work. You can do the exact same thing with a website to sell your products and something you can relatively easily mass produce. You have all the basics you need for an easy online business. This is made even easier by the fact that you can also promote your products on sites like Etsy, which is etsy.com, or of course on eBay, which is ebay.com. There's no reason your items have to be mass produced at all. If you're a creative type and you have a particular skill or craft that you can sell, then you can just as easily make money selling portraits on eBay, caricatures, homemade jewelry, or even artwork. My sister left art college with no job lined up and became a telesalesperson. That wasn't exactly what she wanted, but it doesn't matter to her because her real passion comes from making stunning artwork and selling it on eBay. What's more is that it makes her a very nice little profit on the side. Finally, why not have someone else design and manufacture the products, even handle the fulfillment, and you just put your logo on it? As it happens, that's actually a thing, and it's called drop shipping. And this is a white label service, meaning no one will ever know the other company is involved. The only difficulty is finding companies that offer this. Try Worldwide Brands, which is worldwidebrands.com, or Alibaba, which is alibaba.com, to find companies that do. Okay, so we've had some fun with handcrafted products and 3D printed products. Some people will be happy to stop there and make a living selling those kinds of items. But if you really want to take the world by storm, you're going to need to create something more unique and you're going to need to mass manufacture it in big enough quantities so that you can get it into stores and generally start making lots of money from it. So, where do we start? Of course, we start with the idea. This is going to be the hard part for some people, and that's what will often be a stumbling block. To create something that will be successful, you need a unique idea with a USP, that's a unique selling point. You're probably not going to be able to compete with the big businesses on price or marketing, so you need to come up with something original or you need to use savvy marketing. To come up with something original, you should still try to think about the buyer persona, the person that you're targeting with your items. What markets do you have good access to? What channels can you utilize to get your items out there into the real world? Once you know this, you can start to think about what category of product you want to create. It's always best to create what you know. In other words, fitness products are best designed by the genuine fitness freaks of the world. From there, try to think about your own pain points. Think about common frustrations or irritations you have, and then think about how you're going to solve them in a unique way. This is called scratching your own itch. Other ways you can try to come up with new ideas in a given niche is to try combining two previous successful products. Alternatively, think about something really cool that everyone undoubtedly wants but isn't possible yet, and then try to find out what the closest thing to it is that you could make. But if none of this works, then you can go down the route of creating a tried and tested product, and there's actually nothing wrong with this approach. If you have a dedicated audience on your website, or if you're able to source your products cheaply, then you can simply market yourself and sell something with your unique design, your unique logos, etc. Coming up with just an idea, though, is not enough. What you also need to come up with is an actual product, as in, you need to know how that idea is going to work. Once you've done your design on paper, you need to think about how it will actually operate and how you'll be able to produce it. Enter design engineering. Design engineering is perhaps best explained as being the nexus where design and engineering collide. In other words, this is where the line becomes blurred between form and function, and where engineering decisions are going to start directly impacting on the user experience and the functionality of the process. Industrial designers will often be responsible for the aesthetic and the ergonomic aspects of a design, whereas the design engineer will then work with the engineers and designers to create a much more detailed set of designs outlining how all this will work. If you imagine any new product, then it's easy to see why there would be a need to go backwards and forwards between the designers and the engineers. Imagine, for instance, a new computer. The design team might have an idea for how this should look and interact with the user, but they're going to be limited by the electronic engineers who know how large the components are going to be, how hot the device is going to get, etc., etc. Design engineering will often follow the engineering design process, which consists of several steps. First will come research, which involves looking at the literature and research as it relates to the target market, to previous products, etc. From here will come feasibility, at which point the feasibility of the proposed project is discussed with the additional information now provided by research. A feasibility study will not simply define a project as feasible or not, but it will also look at how it could be altered to come in under budget, to be functional, etc., etc. This narrows the scope of the project and leads to a further design phase. Conceptualization starts next and will usually involve a concept study where the project is planned and different ideas are discussed. This step helps to minimize error and improves the project's chances of success ultimately. Some different tools are sometimes used to help with this stage. These tools are intended to aid ideation and thus to encourage the flow of new ideas through trigger words, brainstorming, and synetics. From here, you establish design requirements and create a preliminary design with basic schematics, diagrams, and layouts. If this is successful, then the preliminary design can move into a detailed design, which can also include the creation of prototypes, models, and drawings. In this stage, CAD, computer aided design, can be used to stress test the project to an extent and to find ways to reduce the costs by removing materials without negatively impacting on resilience. Finally, this moves on to production planning and tool design, the creation of the tools needed for production, and ultimately the production of the project. This might seem like a lengthy process, but ultimately it is these crucial stages that help to prevent issues down the line and thus keep profits high. Starting to feel your stress levels rise? Well, don't worry. I've used all the technical terminology here just to make sure you understand the process in detail and you can discuss it if necessary. But if you're planning on manufacturing everything yourself, then it's actually sufficient to do all these things vaguely. Just come up with your idea and then make sure you design what it's actually going to look like and how its function is going to inform the form. Still got that headache? Well, don't worry, I've got you covered. It's actually possible to outsource the process of designing your product, and more specifically, to crowdsource it, meaning that lots of people submit ideas. CrowdSpring, which you'll find here at crowdspring.com, for instance, is a website that allows you to find designers for your projects starting for as little as $7. So you have your idea and you're not sure how to make this into a CAD file you can actually use, then just head over here to get exactly what you need. The platform is geared specifically towards small businesses and entrepreneurs like you and has given life to some popular products such as the Diet Wizard wristband from Blue Nova. A similar option is CAD Crowd, which you'll find here at cadcrowd.com. And this allows you to run contests for CAD designers wherein you pay only for your favorite designer once several options have been submitted. There's also a more traditional option to pay by the hour, though. For everything else, packaging, branding, etc., you can always use the ever popular 99designs.com or regional variations like this one here for the UK, 99designs.co.uk. Having a great idea is something you should never underestimate. With the right idea, you have not only got the power to change your life and that of others, but also the power to change the world. The right idea can get you passionate, it can make you rich, and it can make your life easier and better in all sorts of ways. Right now, we have an idea of what's possible and what's not, But when we come up with a new idea, a new solution to a common problem, we can change this definition by creating new ways to do things and even creating entirely new things in the first place. But if you want to create a business on the back of your idea, then it's not enough for it to simply be useful or even transformative. Your idea has also got to be profitable. What this means is that your idea needs to be commercially viable. You need to be able to create it in a cost effective manner so you can charge a reasonable price for it and still make a profit. Likewise, you need your idea to be attractive enough to other people so that they're willing to pay for it. And you may also need it to speak to lenders and investors so that you can get financial backing to go ahead. So, how do you know if your idea is really a possible business? And how do you know if your idea is profitable? Well, in order to decide whether or not your business is going to be profitable, you need to look at two things in particular: your cost per unit, which tells you how much it's going to cost to manufacture, and your price. For that first figure, the cost per unit, you need to make sure that you account for every single expense that you will need to make in order to create your products. That doesn't just mean thinking about the cost of manufacturing the item itself, and you can get all that from your manufacturing contractor. It also means finding out how much packaging and instructions are going to cost, how much you're going to spend running your business in that time, and how much you're going to spend on labor, and how much it's going to cost you to deliver your item, that sort of thing. Likewise, you also need to think about marketing. How much money do you want to spend on making your product known? Once you know that, it's now time to work out a price and to see if there's a profit left over for you at the end of the day. Bear in mind that you'll need to work out two prices, one being the wholesale price that you offer to resellers, and the other being the RRP end users will pay for your item. Remember that everyone in the chain also needs to make a profit, so you need to keep your price competitive and do enough market research to ensure people are willing to pay it. If you run these numbers to find that your product isn't going to earn you any money, then don't be disheartened. By tweaking a few elements, you can normally increase your margins. And it's better to find that out now than later. So now you have an idea that you think can sell. You have worked out roughly what kind of profit you can expect to get from it, and you even have a 3D CAD file ready to send off to those interested in helping you make your idea a reality. At this stage, it's always a good idea to create a prototype. There are numerous ways you can do this, from talking with a manufacturer, I'll talk more about that later, to using 3D printing or even creating your very own prototype from scratch if you have the DIY skills and the necessary materials. This will come in handy for the focus groups, which is the next stage, and also just so that you can get an idea of how this is all working and if you feel positive about your product. Prototyping can also bring to light problems that might not have been apparent from the CAD file alone. Once you have your prototype, it's a good idea to consider using focus groups or doing other market research at this stage. This means researching how other products in the market are performing and who your buyer persona is. At the same time, you might want to create an actual focus group for your product, which means hiring a venue, getting people together, and getting feedback from them regarding your product. This is a very good strategy as it will allow you to see how people react to your product in person. Again, it might be painful to learn things about your idea at this stage, but it's better to find out now than later. You can then take the feedback you get and use this to iterate on your product design. Likewise, you can record positive responses and use this as evidence that your product has, quote, legs when you're trying to get a licensing deal or funding, and we'll talk about that in later videos. Now, at this point, you might find yourself starting to worry. You've got a great idea, a great design, and you're all ready to go. Should you really be sending that to manufacturers, showing it to focus groups? What's to stop someone from simply taking your idea and using it for themselves? Of course, this is a real problem, so you need to think about intellectual property law and what you can do to protect yourself. There are actually five different types of protection under intellectual property law. Now, these may vary depending on what country you live in, so just use what I'm going to say here as a guide and do your own research as to what applies where you live. Now, protections 1 and 2 are patents or patents, as some people pronounce it. And when it comes to hardware, the most relevant form of intellectual property protection is no doubt a patent. And it's patents that Apple and Samsung have infamously fought over so publicly about. Patents protect physical creations, they protect medicines, and they protect designs. More specifically, though, they protect the method of execution as opposed to the original idea. To demonstrate this, consider that the inventor of the chair could not patent chairs, nor could they patent something you sit on. They may, though, have had more luck protecting something you sit on with four legs and a back. As a maker, then, you can use a patent to protect the design or engineering innovations that made your product possible rather than the product itself. The two types of patents are design patents and utility patents, which protect designs and utilities respectively. In other words, if you have a smartphone, the design patent would protect the look of the phone, while the utility patent would protect the inclusion of whatever newfangled chip it had in it. Unfortunately for designers, getting a patent is a complex, expensive, and slow process, however, and your ideas will only be protected in certain regions. They also expire. In the UK, it's 20 years for utility patents and 14 for design patents, and they can't be renewed indefinitely. To get more information on patents, check out the Patent Office website for the country where you live. Number 3 is copyright, and copyright law is less likely to apply to makers, but it still can play a role. Copyright protects stories, writing, music, and even code to some extent. In other words, a copyright protects creative pursuits and comes into effect the moment you complete something. So, if you write a blurb for your new product, that blurb will be protected under copyright law and you can threaten legal action if someone publishes it against your will. What this also means is that you can't just take an image from Google Images and use it in your packet design or on your website. The main challenge with copyright is proving that the idea was yours originally. Again, you can find much more information at the Intellectual Property Office for your country. 4 is a trademark, and a trademark is a name or an image that you trade under which can be used to identify your business or your products. Now, that might mean your company name, your products, or even a branch of your business. Microsoft is a trademark, for instance, but Windows, Xbox, and Surface are also all trademarks owned by Microsoft. Trademarks are relatively easy to acquire and will set you back a few $100s, which protects you for 10 years. It's always worth doing a trademark search before you create a new product in case someone should already own the rights. And finally, number 5 is an NDA. Now, an NDA is a non disclosure agreement, sometimes called a confidentiality agreement. This is a contract used to prevent others from talking about your ideas, which in turn means you can speak freely with business partners and employees about your projects. Typically, an NDA will be in the form contract and will include a list of things that you can and can't mention outside of the meeting. These days, though, many serious companies and startups won't use NDAs, and you can risk looking unprofessional if you push this too strongly. As a rule, people you will consult with have their own ideas and plans and aren't bent on stealing yours. What's more, ideas are in no short supply. It's the ability to see them through that matters. As with most things, the best form of protection is simply to be the first and to be the best. No one will remember the imitators. At some point, you just need to start getting your idea out there and push ahead. So take the plunge. What is it that appeals to you most about being an entrepreneur or inventor? For most of us, it's not down to the money necessarily, or even the fact that we can be our boss. For the majority, it all comes down to creative freedom, the joy of inventing and creating, and the incredible satisfaction that comes from seeing our products on the shelves and in the papers. All the rest of it, the financing, the packaging, the order fulfillment, the budgeting, the marketing, etc., 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 well, it's all just a big pain in the neck that prevents us from doing what we really want to do. Well, if that's how you feel, then you may be interested in licensing. When you license an idea, you see, you'll get to spend the time focused on doing what you love, coming up with the ideas in the first place and testing them out, while letting someone else worry about the finer details. This is your last chance saloon to sidestep the actual process of building your product yourself, but this option is a little different than using something like Spreadshirt, say, because it allows you to make something completely unique and new rather than having to stick to a tried and tested formula. And it's different from 3D printing in that you have the option to mass produce and even to get help getting your product into stores. There are downsides, though, as we'll see. When you come up with a great idea for a product, you have two routes open to you. Either you build an entire business around your idea and invest in manufacturing, marketing, and the rest of it, though we will learn how to do this the easiest and cheapest ways possible, or you sign a product licensing deal in order to let someone else handle all that on your behalf. What this means is that you'll let an established company worry about the financing and marketing, while you get a cut of the profit for coming up with the idea in the first place. This is great news if you don't have much cash, as it means there's a lot less risk. But it can be a bad strategy if you end up with a mega hit on your hands, as generally the deal would give you less than 10% of the profits. Before you begin, then, ask yourself whether you want to be a businessman or woman or an inventor. What is it that drives you? Seeing your product on the shelves and having more time to spend with your family, or having complete control over your baby and shooting for the stars. Of course, this doesn't have to be an either or scenario, depending on the nature of the agreement you sign. And you can always license one product in order to test the viability of your ideas and gain financing for your next idea. But just because you've chosen to go the easy route doesn't mean that it's going to be a walk in the park. Getting a company to take a chance on your idea can be incredibly difficult. The first thing you need to do is to protect your idea. Now, whether that means getting a patent, a trademark, or a copyright, you should do so right away. Not only will this ensure that companies don't decide to use your idea without paying you, but it will also demonstrate that you're serious, sensible, and that you know your stuff. The next step is to see how your invention can be a serious business opportunity. This means knowing how much it will cost to produce and what people will be willing to pay for it. It means identifying a target demographic and a route to market. It means doing market research and assessing the competition. In short, you need to present more than ideas when you try to sell, and you need to show that you're serious. What we've looked at in the last video should help you with that. Now learn to present your product in a compelling way and practice your public speaking. Make sure that your passion comes across and that you can get people excited for your creations. But that you should also come across as realistic and down to earth. If you can identify one person within a company who's excited for your product early on, then that's a great asset to have. Speak with them and get advice on how to approach the company. Okay, so you have your idea, your CAD file, your IP protection, and you're ready to go. You've decided not to go the licensing route because you want to maintain total control of your product and get all of the profit for your baby, and understandably so. So, how do you take the leap and become an honest to God hardware startup with your own manufacturing in place? Well, you now have two options: directly approaching manufacturers and approaching contractors. A contractor, of course, is someone who will act as a go between for you and the manufacturer. They will pass on any communications and will generally ensure that you have your hand held at every stage of the way. You're now going to want to send out proposals, and you can do that by looking on Google for the companies that meet your requirements, by going to trade shows, or by looking at websites that list everything you need to know all in one easy place. For example, the websites Alibaba, which is alibaba.com, and ThomasNet, which is thomasnet.com, and this is the Thomas's Register of Manufacturers, will give you plenty of manufacturers you can choose from, and from there it's a simple matter of scrolling through and finding what you're looking for. Another option is the excellent Makers Row, which you'll find here at makersrow.com. And the tagline of this site is Manufacturing Made Easy. And as this suggests, the entire concept is that this one site will provide you with everything you need to get started in one convenient location. They have a list of over 10,000 American manufacturers, but unfortunately, you will have to pay to be a member. If you're planning on creating something specific, such as clothes, then you'll be looking for a specific type of contractor. For example, you might need a garment contractor, and you can find these at garmentcontractors.org. And there are other sites as well. This site does look a bit dated now, but I'm told the information on it is fairly up to date. Tim Ferriss spoke to Shopify and recommended that makers send out lots of proposals to lots of factories and let them all know that you're speaking with others, and basically let them bid for your attention and try to win your business. And you can read the whole interview here on the Shopify blog. Now you can choose to make a prototype this way by speaking with the factory. This is a good idea because it will give you some indication of the quality of your product, and it'll give you a more realistic example of your product. In other words, if you're going to Kickstarter with your item, and I'll talk more about that in a moment, then you'll benefit from being able to show proof of concept and to explain that the product you're showing off was made by the manufacturer you're eventually going to work with. Okay, so now you need to send out your proposals. What do you send? Well, fortunately, we've already gone through the steps necessary at this stage, so you should have most of the materials you need to include in your proposal ready. Now, here's what you need to send. The first and most important step in your manufacturing process will be to define your product. In other words, you need to know exactly what it is you're making in order for the manufacturers to be able to know whether or not they can help you. This means you need to know the precise materials and how they're going to be assembled. To start then, you may want to produce a functional specifications or a product requirement document. This only needs to be a Word document, but the basic idea is that you're going to describe all of the tangibles and intangibles in as succinct a manner as possible. And this might mean saying how long you want your battery to last, or it might mean saying how waterproof you want it to be, who's it for, what should the user interface be. Specifically, these are some points you should include: aesthetics, durability, food safety, certifications, user interface, target demographic, intangibles of how it should look, stroke, feel, stroke, act, potential problems you foresee and expectations of the results, will it be used inside or outside, and UV resistance, etc. You don't really need to go through this stage, but if you don't know the first thing about manufacturing, then this document will mean you can get guidance and consultation from those that do. It can also be helpful for your own planning and for structuring your own thinking. You can also submit this document when you're crowdsourcing your designs, or you can ask the designers you hire to do it for you. Now comes the bomb. The bill of materials is a complete list of all the materials and components needed to create your product. Think of it like the first page of the assembly instructions you get with your IKEA flat pack furniture. It should include every last screw and even the paint. For those making electrical products, you'll need an electrical BOM too. If you aren't a DFMA expert, then consult with one or ask your manufacturing partner. And this is where the functional specifications document comes in handy. Your electrical BOM should contain part numbers where possible, or you can include these details in a separate component specification sheet. Then there are the technical files. These are the blueprints which you will often create using software. For plastic parts, you'll want to use CAD, computer-aided design software, to create a 3D image file. For mechanical parts, you'll want to use a Gerber file for board layouts using software like CADSoft Eagle. And this detailed information is necessary for your manufacturer to answer a number of questions regarding how the product will be made and ejected, how shrinking will be managed, etc. Again, you might want to get help with this step. Now comes the fun part, getting to hold your product in your hand and see it work for the first time. Well, sort of. The prototype is like a real-world beta that you can use to check that the end product looks, feels, and functions as intended. In a perfect world, you should send your prototype to the manufacturer along with your documents as best you can. You can use 3D printing to do this, or even construct it by hand. Along with all this, you'll also want to include your rough order estimate, or MOQ, minimum order of quantity. This tells the manufacturer how many pieces you want to make, and it's important because the best technique will depend on whether you've ordered a small or a large run. What's more, you may be able to get bulk discounts for larger orders. That's everything you need to get your product made and to take it from an idea to a reality. Now, there may be several steps here that you don't fully understand or that you don't feel comfortable with, but don't worry. If you find the right person, you'll be able to get help through each step. Don't be afraid to speak to people and ask questions. Now you have the technical terminology, you should find it's at least a little easier to get started. Hold on, before you get started with your first product, this exclusive upgrade will get you going faster and help you make even more money. First off, I want to thank you for getting your hands on the ultimate guide to creating and selling your first online product. Whether you decide to get started with a physical product, information-based product, or even a licensing deal, I know you'll get results quickly with the guide you just purchased. But what if I told you there was a way to get results with your very first online product even faster? And what if you could not only get going faster, but also make a lot more money? Although the guide you just got is very easy to follow and formatted in a very logical step-by-step way, it's a scientifically proven fact that some people are visual learners and just learn better by watching something being done. How about you? How do you prefer to learn something new? Do you just want to read about something, or does watching help you learn faster? If you're like most, it's nice to have the option to watch and learn. That's because most people that buy text-based courses never end up actually finishing the training. And of those that do complete a text-based course or guide, many struggle to retain all the material. Sadly, most people that only read something just don't have the patience and motivation to complete and implement what's inside. What if you could get comprehensive training that shows you exactly what you need to do to see success with your first online product? Something that would take you by the hand and give you that next level of training that you need to get results. And not just any results. Faster and better results. The good news is you're going to have the opportunity to do just that today. Introducing the video version of the guide to getting your first product online. My goal is to help you get results as quickly as possible. And there are little details that can be the difference in making a lot of money with your new product and ultimately failing to make any solid money. Or even worse. If you do things wrong with your first product, you might put in a lot of work and never make a dime. I don't want that to happen to you, and that's why it's so crucial that you absorb all the key details and don't miss out on anything. You really need to pay attention and absorb things like getting started with your first product the right way, choosing the right product to get started with, getting everything set up without wasting time and possibly even money, and how to get the money flowing and then quickly scale it up to a solid six-figure income. If you miss just one step in the process of making money with your first product, you could find yourself wasting a ton of time and ultimately making fewer sales and missing out on huge profits. Sadly, many people struggle to get the results they hope for with their first product because they don't do things the right way. Don't let that be you. When you follow what you'll learn inside the step-by-step video training inside of this upgrade, getting results is easy. In fact, getting this upgrade guarantees you'll learn how to do everything the right way. Click the button below to get instant access. And of course, as an existing and valued customer, you'll get access to the upgrade with special, customer-only discounted pricing. When you consider that this is just like having a private tutor come into your home or office and show you exactly how to set everything up and see results, it would be easy to put a price of several $100s on this upgrade. But you won't pay anywhere near that when you make the wise decision to upgrade today. Plus, when you take action today, you're also going to get an exclusive bonus of 10 high-quality audio MP3s of all the training. This makes it easy to learn on the go and get results quickly and easily. When you add the MP3s to the 10 high-quality videos that show you how to get started making money with your very first product, it's impossible to fail. Not to mention, you get to test drive the upgrade for the next 30 days. With absolutely zero risk. If for any reason, or no reason at all, you're not 100% satisfied with what you learn inside, simply send us an email and we'll refund every single penny of your tiny investment. No questions asked. But please don't wait. This is an exclusive one-time offer at pricing that's only available to our existing customers. If you wait, you may never get another chance to get access to this at a price this low. Click the button below to get instant access today. And now, after everything we've covered in the last few videos, all that's left to do is to actually sell your product. Again, you have a few different options here. Of course, you can do this through your own website using a sales page or more likely an e-commerce store, which will turn your website into a shop. Great tools for creating e-commerce stores include WooCommerce, which you can read about here at woocommerce.com, which has the advantage of being a WordPress plugin, thereby enabling fast and easy installation. And you can actually do this from within the WordPress dashboard. Just go to plugins and type in WooCommerce, and you'll get a whole lot of information about WooCommerce, um, the WooCommerce actual plugin itself, and then there's lots of add-ons that you can get to improve on it as well. Then there's Magneto, which is magento.com, which is similar, but you need to create a separate standalone site. The advantage of this site, though, is that you can stock more items, up to 50,000 to be precise, but chances are that you won't be quite at this stage for a while. Or you might pick Shopify, which is shopify.com in most countries. In the UK, it's shopify.co.uk, and I think there are other regional variations as well. And this is hosted, meaning that you set up an account and then just link that to your website. And there are many more e-commerce platforms. If you just do a search in Google, you'll find lots of different ones, but these should provide you with most of what you need. If you have a small project and a prominent website with lots of traffic, this might be more than sufficient, and you may not need to get serious funding from angel investors. This is the easy win option. But if you're a little more ambitious, then you might want to approach a buyer, which will mean getting your product into stores. And here's how you do it. Step 1, do your research. If you approach retailers without doing any research first, you're only going to be wasting everyone's time, primarily your own. For starters, you need to know beforehand whether a company is even likely to carry products like yours. And for this, you need to research the kind of things that they sell and who their main shoppers are. A good way to find potential outlets is to search for products from your competitors and then see where they're being sold. Next, you should learn everything you can about these stores. Look at their retail guidelines and see if they have a product submissions page on their website. And Walmart, for instance, has step-by-step instructions right on their site. The more prepared you are, the better chance you're going to have. Step 2, know yourself. Likewise, you also need to know everything you can about your product and about your business model. When you present your proposal to retailers, you need to be able to show them why you're confident it will sell, who your target demographic is, and how much it can sell for, and how much profit the store's going to make. Again, the more detail you go into, the more confident stores will be in you and your product. Providing product samples is a good strategy if you can, and providing extra materials such as POS displays, point of sale, can help you to win extra brownie points. Press coverage, etc., can also help you to win your case. Step 3, find your ally. Now you have your pitch stroke package ready, you need to find someone who's willing to listen. Start by contacting the buyer and using the details on the website, or by calling up and asking to speak to the buyer or representative. If you get snubbed, though, or you don't get any response, you can always try again by looking for contacts you might have within that organization. And LinkedIn is a powerful tool in that regard. Or you can do this by arranging a meeting with anyone you can. If you can get just one person to listen and to get enthusiastic about your product, then they might help you to get the meeting you need. And finally, step 4, use a sales representative. If you're still not having any luck, then the other option is to use a sales representative who will handle this part of the process for you. This costs money and you lose some control, but they have experience and contacts which can help them to get you noticed. However you go about it, though, don't give up. You can get 1,000 rejections, but when you get just one positive response, it'll be all worth it. hold on, before you get started with your first product, this exclusive upgrade will get you going faster and help you make even more money. First off, I want to thank you for getting your hands on the ultimate guide to creating and selling your first online product. Whether you decide to get started with a physical product, information-based product, or even a licensing deal, I know you'll get results quickly with the guide you just purchased. But what if I told you there was a way to get results with your very first online product even faster? And what if you could not only get going faster, but also make a lot more money? Although the guide you just got is very easy to follow and formatted in a very logical step-by-step way, it's a scientifically proven fact that some people are visual learners and just learn better by watching something being done. How about you? How do you prefer to learn something new? Do you just want to read about something, or does watching help you learn faster? If you're like most, it's nice to have the option to watch and learn. That's because most people that buy text-based courses never end up actually finishing the training. And of those that do complete a text-based course or guide, many struggle to retain all the material. Sadly, most people that only read something just don't have the patience and motivation to complete and implement what's inside. What if you could get comprehensive training that shows you exactly what you need to do to see success with your first online product? Something that would take you by the hand and give you that next level of training that you need to get results. And not just any results. Faster and better results. The good news is you're going to have the opportunity to do just that today. Introducing the video version of the guide to getting your first product online. My goal is to help you get results as quickly as possible. And there are little details that can be the difference in making a lot of money with your new product and ultimately failing to make any solid money. Or even worse. If you do things wrong with your first product, you might put in a lot of work and never make a dime. I don't want that to happen to you, and that's why it's so crucial that you absorb all the key details and don't miss out on anything. You really need to pay attention and absorb things like getting started with your first product the right way, choosing the right product to get started with, getting everything set up without wasting time and possibly even money, and how to get the money flowing and then quickly scale it up to a solid six-figure income. If you miss just one step in the process of making money with your first product, you could find yourself wasting a ton of time and ultimately making fewer sales and missing out on huge profits. Sadly, many people struggle to get the results they hope for with their first product because they don't do things the right way. Don't let that be you. When you follow what you'll learn inside the step-by-step video training inside of this upgrade, getting results is easy. In fact, getting this upgrade guarantees you'll learn how to do everything the right way. Click the button below to get instant access. And of course, as an existing and valued customer, you'll get access to the upgrade with special, customer-only discounted pricing. When you consider that this is just like having a private tutor come into your home or office and show you exactly how to set everything up and see results, it would be easy to put a price of several $100s on this upgrade. but you won't pay anywhere near that when you make the wise decision to upgrade today. Plus, when you take action today, you're also going to get an exclusive bonus of 10 high-quality audio MP3s of all the training. This makes it easy to learn on the go and get results quickly and easily. When you add the MP3s to the 10 high-quality videos that show you how to get started making money with your very first product, it's impossible to fail. Not to mention, you get to test drive the upgrade for the next 30 days. With absolutely zero risk. If for any reason, or no reason at all, you're not 100% satisfied with what you learn inside, simply send us an email and we'll refund every single penny of your tiny investment. No questions asked. But please don't wait. This is an exclusive one-time offer at pricing that's only available to our existing customers. If you wait, you may never get another chance to get access to this at a price this low. Click the button below to get instant access today. One more easy option that is now starting to take advantage of modern technology is 3D printing. 3D printing is basically like any other kind of printing, except that instead of printing onto paper, you're now printing actual 3D objects. These objects can be made from plastic, metal, wood, china, and more. All you need is the raw material, which will often come in the shape of a thin tube, and a 3D file called a CAD file, which stands for Computer Aided Design. The file provides the 3D printer with the detailed instructions for how to produce the item, and the printer then goes about melting the material and drawing it one layer at a time. As it does this, it slowly builds the solid object up from the ground. What this means is that as long as your product is relatively simple, you can print it from nothing with no need for any complex manufacturing or assembly. There are websites you can do this from, such as Shapeways, which you'll find here at shapeways.com. To use Shapeways, you simply need to send your CAD file away and then choose your material. This way, you can make literally anything you can think of. And of course, if your product has more than one part, or if it uses more than one material, then you can just attach those two materials or two colors yourself by hand as the last stage of production. Shapeways in particular has come on a long way. Today it has more options such as drone parts and even allows you to open your own store right there on the site and begin selling. You can also browse what other people have made. The other good news? It's actually possible to buy 3D printers for your own home. These aren't particularly cheap, and the amount you'll spend really depends on what it is that you want. The products range from things like the Formlabs Form 2 for several $1,000s to the China A8 for between $100 and $200. If you're going to be making tiny plastic toys, then even these cheap desktop 3D printers are probably enough. If you want to run a full business, then investing in a larger printer becomes necessary. If you're looking for a selection of 3D printers, then perhaps the best place to start is with MakerBot. And this is a brand that makes a wide range of printers, all of which get great reviews and should be more than up to whatever challenges you throw at them. And you can find out more here at makerbot.com. Once again, with a simple tool like this and perhaps an e-commerce store on your website, you can then start selling simple 3D products from your site. This might mean things like phone cases, tablet stands, key rings, toys or figurines, desk caddies, and more. You can then simply print out each order as it comes in and send it off for a considerable profit. The phone case business model, in fact, is a very popular one and one that lots of people make a lot of money from. Before this can be a viable business model for you, though, you're first going to need to learn how to create those 3D CAD files. This basically just means using a piece of software, just as you would use Photoshop to create a professional image. The good news? There's plenty of free software out there, and there's lots of cheap software as well. One great option is Rhinoceros or Rhino 3D, which you can find out more about here at rhino3d.com. And another is Blender, which you can read about here at blender.org. Now let's take a look at how you would get started with Rhino 3D, and what you learn here should be relatively easy to apply to your CAD software of choice. What you're left with will be a file that you can either send to Shapeways for printing or print out on a 3D printer at home. You're going to need these skills later on too when it comes to prototyping and even manufacturing. So even if your business model isn't going to be selling 3D printed products, I highly recommend that you give this a go. And there's a real thrill that comes from creating a model and then receiving the finished article in the post. Now, when you load up Rhinoceros 3D, you'll be greeted first by the option to select a template, which will allow you to pick the rough scale you want to work with. Decide on whether the item you're going to be designing will be served better by being measured in centimeters or millimeters, and then choose appropriately. Note, however, that once you begin, you can go to View Grid Options to change this specifically and to set the distance between the squares on your grid. This is very useful if you're prototyping because it lets you create images of a specific size accurately and conveniently. Now you'll be greeted by four panels which give you your top view, front view, right view, and perspective view. The first three are schematic views, allowing you to precisely measure the shape of images, while the top right one allows you to rotate your image around in 3D. If you want to see what it would look like as a solid object, then select this view and then click Render or Shade for a preview of what it would look like. By clicking on Layer, you can edit the materials and the colors that your object will use, and even set textures in order to make your item look like a real 3D object rather than a block of dough. Now to get started, you will probably want to select one view to work in. You can double-click the title of any view to expand it to fill the whole screen, and click again to switch to the four-plane view. Now you will begin to draw into the grid, and you can do this by drawing individual lines, shapes, or 3D objects by selecting the tool from the left toolbars or from along the top. Drawing individual lines gives you the most control, and to use this you should select Near, a checkbox down the bottom of the screen, so that the lines start and finish in the same place when you want them to. Otherwise, you can have minute gaps between lines, which is very frustrating when you try to join them. And hold Shift while dragging if you want your line to be completely straight. Now it's time to go 3D. Draw yourself a box or a triangle or whatever to start with, and now you will want to make that a three-dimensional object. To do this, you have several objects. First, select all the lines and click Combine down the left. It looks like a jigsaw puzzle, and that will become a flat outline. Now to pull that outline upwards to create a box or sheath, click Extrude Planar Surface, and then click on your new shape and drag it up or down the y-axis. This object will be hollow, so to close it, click Cap Planar Holes to turn it into a box or a pyramid. Another option is to simply change views and to draw the other sides going up and along the top manually. As long as you connect them all, you can choose to combine again and then surface, curve, network in order to turn those lines into another box or pyramid. But remember to use cap again as well. Finally, if you want to use one of Rhino's fancier abilities, try selecting your shape and then typing revolve into the command box, and you can learn a lot of functions by playing around in here. Now draw the line along which you want to revolve your object and then choose the degrees. Type 360 degrees and you'll make a tube out of your shape, which is how you make things like vases, cups, and cylinders. Play around and make a few shapes, then drag them to overlap, making sure they are solid shapes and not just outlines. Because selecting Boolean union to combine those two shapes into one shape And with just this basic knowledge, you can pretty much get started.